Here we go. It is the nightcap, Saturday, August 27th. I think I'm finally back on track with days. Right here at BearcatJournal.com, brought to you, as always, by Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Get down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15%. How you doing, Aaron? How'd the draft go?
It went all right. I'm never super happy with any of my fantasy football drafts. So
I really only had one draft I was ever like, I think I nailed it, and I ended up winning a 32-team league.
oh wow.
I had 3 running backs that got hot like all in the last like 5 weeks of the season. And when that happens, like you just get lucky, really.
Sure.
But anyhow, enough fantasy football. Did you have a good time last night at the BCJ happy hour?
The BCJ mixer. Yeah, it was cool. It was funny. I mean, when you have people coming up to you like, "Oh, how's the baby?" and I'm like, what's your name?" Like,
how'd you not show Taylor pictures of the baby? Taylor was very upset with you.
I don't know that I showed anybody pictures of the baby.
I know, but she was hinting like, "How's the baby?" That when girls ask you about the baby, they want to see pictures of the baby, and you didn't show Kelly or Taylor pictures of the baby.
Why can't people just ask to see pictures of the baby?
Like, that's not how girls work, Aaron. They want you to be like, "Look, here's my baby," because that's how girls work, right?
Maybe. I don't know. Clearly.
Oh, you've got so much to learn. How are you like in your late 30s? You didn't learn anything in your 20s and early 30s, did you?
I mean,
no. Clearly no.
Mistakes were made.
Oh, all right. Let's get into it. Big news of the night, obviously. Jizzle James, 4-star point guard out of Florida, number 63, in the 247 composite. The other high-level point guard Cincinnati's been chasing for a long time now. We've been talking about him through the spring and summer as somebody that Cincinnati is working diligently on, along with Isaiah Collier. Final 3 tonight. Cincinnati made the cut. It is Georgia, Cincinnati, LSU. Georgia people have he's from Florida. The Georgia staff, remember, was the Florida staff. And they moved to Georgia this offseason. They have been recruiting Jizzle James, who, if you don't know, is the son of Edgerrin James. Played for the Colts. Is he he's going to be a Hall of Famer, right?
I actually looked him up right before you even mentioned him because I couldn't remember where he went to school. He went to the University of Miami. He was a Hurricane.
The U. Like, he was big time, like, back when the U was the U. Yeah. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
He is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Oh, he already made it. Okay, yes. Like, he was a legend. Like,
class of 2020.
Okay. That was COVID. I didn't. Everything was weird.
Yep.
We were at a family function. I'm all over the place tonight. At a family function today, and my cousin is going off to Europe for like the next 8 months. And her mom is going over with her for a couple of weeks, and her mom just turned 51. They're trying to stay in a hostel, and the hostel was like, anybody over 50, you're out. And I was like, well, don't you have a COVID year? Like, everybody, 2020 didn't. Can't you just be like, I'm actually 50. The COVID year didn't count. But really talented, great quickness, as you would expect, given the pedigree. Knows how to get to the rim, physical, good defender, outstanding mid-range pull-up game. Still kind of developing that three-point shot. It's funny because there's a lot of things very similar between Jizzle James and his style of play and Isaiah Collier and his style of play. James is a little shorter, maybe not as dynamic of a passer. Obviously, Collier is proven to be like the elite of those things. But if you're describing players, a lot of the things you would say to describe Jizzle James, you also say when you describe Isaiah Collier. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I don't know that I'd even really compare them, but they just do a lot of things that are in the same ballpark, I guess is like how I would put it. So Wes Miller clearly has a type of point guard, as you would expect, coming from a high-level point, like a guy that played point guard in North Carolina. We're seeing that play out again. The window of all of this is going to be fascinating because I've said this on the board, and if you're a member of Bearcat Journal, you get stuff like this months in advance. I've said on the board before, I thought the Collier thing was going to play out very similar to what Jizzle James said tonight is his timeline, which is that window right before November 9th, I think is the first day of the early signing period for basketball. Right before that November 9th date is when he is planning to make his decision. Everything I had heard, what? Go ahead.
I just find it interesting that he's from Orlando. His dad went to Miami, and you don't see Orlando Technical Institute anywhere.
I mean,
on the list.
He's a little better than that. Yeah. The reason you don't see Florida on the list, as I said, Florida's old staff is recruiting him now to Georgia. So Florida was initially a team that was a heavy contender, but that interest has now moved to Georgia. I was a little surprised. I thought Florida would be on this list. I was confident Georgia was going to be on the list. I was confident Cincinnati was going to be on the list. If I had to guess before, I heard what was going on, I would have guessed Florida. So LSU surprised me for a little bit. But as he said in the interview with Travis Branham, that LSU staff has a lot of ties to John Morant. And guess what? John Morant's a pretty hot name in the basketball world right now.
He's kind of a big deal.
That name holds a lot of juice with recruits. I coach John Morant.
Has LSU still not offered him? He's listed.
I'm sure. Like if he called LSU tomorrow and was like, "I'm going to commit," that's the gauge for me, right? Typically, if you call the school and like, "Hey, I'm coming," if they say okay, then you have an offer. I think there's a bunch of kids. That's what's messed up. There's so many kids that have offers from places they can't call and commit. The question is, with Cincinnati, how would that go? Right?
Right.
The Isaiah Collier thing, and now that they're in the thick of it, down to the finish line with Jizzle James, who Travis Branham said visiting the 27th for the Indiana game. I think that's going to be probably the best home atmosphere for UC this year. Would you agree?
Looking at the schedule, yeah, probably. I mean, outside of maybe the Friday night game against who's that game against?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's
exactly.
I think it's one of the Tulsanes.
Tulsane, yeah. Well, Tulsa will be on the road this year. Remember how butthurt they got that the 2020 game went the way of COVID, and that Cincinnati cheated them out of their chance to host the American Athletic Conference Championship. You've got your ass kicked. Shut up. But so it would have to be Tulane. I guess. I don't know. If you think it's one of the Tulsanes.
Oh, no.
Aren't you supposed?
It's ECU, actually. It's ECU on Friday.
Yeah, Black Friday, right?
November 11th.
Or no, that's not Black Friday. That's way later in.
Yeah, it's not even the right
I
month.
just associate ECU with Black Friday for whatever reason, because that game feels like it happens every time we play at ECU. It's a Black Friday game, feels like.
Gotcha.
Or at least listening to stories from Mo and Tony and those guys about where they have to spend their Thanksgiving. Anyhow, Jizzle James. This is going to be an interesting one. Like I do think if you're naming a leader, I think it's Georgia at this point. Just because of the work that staff has done with him for so long when they were at Florida. But Cincinnati's in as good a spot as any right here. He talked about the relationship he has with the staff, how they talk every day, how they built a great bond with them, how Cincinnati's a basketball school. He said that he continued to repeat he wanted to go to a basketball school. That's not Georgia.
No.
I'm just saying. LSU, you could make that argument. There's been a lot of really, really great basketball players that have gone to LSU. They obviously care about it with the budget that they gave Will Wade to use to make the program good. But if you're talking basketball school, of those three, I know who I'm picking.
Yeah, I think there's certainly something to be said for Cincinnati as a basketball school, even still with football surging.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think, great job by Wes Miller and staff. Everybody for a long time has been panicked. What happens if they don't land Collier? Is there a backup plan? And I know early on in the process, it was thought to be Trey Green. I thought in the spring, it was pretty clear they had their eyes on something different. That's why we continue to report on Jizzle James. And now they're in the final three. So
I'd say the 64th overall player in the country as your backup plan is.
It's not bad.
It's a pretty good backup plan.
And it's not even a backup plan necessarily. It's just that Isaiah Collier right now is number one, right? Like, It's your other plan, I guess is a good word for it.
I mean, I'm sure there's a world where both could potentially end up here.
No? I can't. No, two guys like that aren't committing to the same school.
I like picturing that world.
Well, look, would Cincinnati take both of them?
Yes.
You're damn right they would. But when you're talking about the kids, like getting to point guards of that stature to commit is very difficult. Impossible, not impossible, unlikely, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Have you been able to watch much football today, or were you driving back to Athens?
I was driving back to Athens.
So I just wanted to throw a nugget in the 2017 UCF versus 2021 Cincinnati debate.
Okay.
The coach of UCF in 2017 was Scott Frost.
Yeah.
And that guy sucks.
How's that looking for him right now?
That guy sucks as a coach.
To go over to Ireland.
They had a double-digit lead twice.
To go over to Ireland and just drop the ball.
It almost felt like they might leave him in Ireland. Like, we don't know. I think they're leaving tomorrow.
TBD.
They might leave him in Ireland and just be like, enjoy your vacation, sir. We have booked you a bed and breakfast in Dublin. And you can stay here for as long as you'd like. But you can't come home with us.
I mean, I guess all the puking of the
Did you know the Northwestern offensive line coach sent out a tweet and was basically like, to think we only had 4 guys puke all camp. We only puked 4 times all camp.
Just open mouth.
Why keep setting yourself up for trolling at that level? Like, just shut up.
I mean, I would think that Scott Frost is probably
it's got to be the end of the road.
He's had a pretty big head for quite some time, and I'm still not entirely certain why.
So to any of the night managers at Howard Johnson in Orlando watching this, when you want to talk about those two teams, you get Scott Frost Cincinnati gets Luke Fickell. That's not good for you.
Fair enough.
I think I got to sneeze. Let's get out of here. All right, that's the nightcap. Brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
Sit!